Captain James stared at the monitoring screen, fighting back a yawn. Another quiet day in the Deep Space Communication Center of United Earth Command. The large room hummed with the soft sounds of machines and quiet talk between workers. 20 years in the Terran Defense Force, and most days still felt the same, watching, waiting, and wondering if anything interesting would ever happen. Earth sat alone in the galaxy, marked as a Class 12 death world by the Galactic Coalition. Most alien species stayed far away. They feared Earth's extreme weather, dangerous animals, and most of all, the tough humans who had evolved there. Humans could survive conditions that would kill most aliens in minutes. This made other species nervous. James sipped his coffee, now cold after sitting forgotten for the past hour. His screen showed the usual traffic, cargo ships moving between human colonies, routine check-ins from patrol vessels, and automated beacons from the outer warning system. "Sir," called Sam, a young communications officer with bright eyes that hadn't yet dulled from years of routine. "I'm picking up something strange." James walked over, glad for any break in the monotony. "What have you got?" "It's coming from the Pleiades cluster, not a human signal." Sam's fingers moved quickly across the controls. "It's using an old Coalition emergency frequency." James felt a jolt of adrenaline. The Pleiades cluster was home to the Stellar Concord, one of the few alien civilizations that occasionally traded with humans, though always at a careful distance. "Put it through," James ordered, standing straighter. The main screen flickered and a face appeared. The alien had pale blue skin that seemed to glow slightly, with large black eyes that took up most of its face. James recognized the species. Luminar from the Stellar Concord, a peaceful race known for their scientific achievements and strict nonviolence beliefs. "This is Envoy Trell of the Stellar Concord research vessel Harmony. We request immediate assistance." The alien's voice shook slightly. "Our ship has been captured by Void Marauders. They have taken our crew hostage and threatened to sell us into servitude." James felt his blood run cold. The Void Marauders were infamous pirates who preyed on soft species from comfortable worlds. They avoided human ships, knowing that tangling with Deathworlders usually ended badly for them. "We are scientists and diplomats. We have no defense capabilities," the alien continued. "Our captors plan to reach their base in 3 of your Earth days. We beg for intervention." The envoy paused, then added with emphasis, "We specifically request nonviolent resolution if possible. Our beliefs forbid causing harm to others, even in our defense." The signal cut out, replaced by coordinates and technical data about the Marauder vessel. James immediately hit the emergency alert button. Within minutes, the command center filled with senior officers, including Admiral Walker, Earth's top military commander. Walker was a tall woman with gray hair cut short and a face marked by years of difficult decisions. "Report," she said simply as she entered. James played the message again. The room fell silent when it finished. "The Concord has always been friendly to us, even when other species won't come near Earth," Walker noted, studying the data on the main screen. "And the Void Marauders have attacked our outer colonies twice in the past year. Standard response would be to send a diplomatic vessel with military escort," suggested Colonel Harris, a thin man who headed the Strategic Response Division. "We could negotiate." "Negotiate with pirates?" interrupted Commander Rodriguez, head of Special Operations. "The Marauders only respect strength. They'll see diplomacy as weakness." Walker looked at the star map showing the coordinates. "The nearest patrol ship would take 5 days to reach them. Too long." The room erupted in suggestions and arguments. James watched as Admiral Walker's face grew more thoughtful, her eyes narrowing as she considered options. "Silence," she finally said, and the room immediately quieted. "There is one ship in range, one that could reach them in less than 2 days." A heavy silence fell over the room as everyone realized which ship she meant. "You can't be serious," Colonel Harris said. "The Wolf is a last resort battleship. It's never been used for a rescue mission." "The Wolf was designed for high-risk engagements," Walker replied calmly. "Its crew is composed entirely of Special Forces operators from Earth's most extreme environments. But the Concord asked for non-violent intervention, Harris objected. Sending the Wolf is like using a sledgehammer to swat a fly. Walker turned to face the room. The Wolf isn't just powerful because of its weapon systems. It's powerful because of who crews it. 25 of the most capable humans ever to serve in our forces. People who can survive conditions that would kill even most humans. She walked to the command console and entered her authorization code. The Marauders think they understand danger because they carry weapons and prey on weaker species. They've never faced real Deathworlders. Walker's voice was steady. Sometimes, the best way to avoid violence is to show what you're capable of, so you don't have to demonstrate it. She pressed the final confirmation button. Send the Wolf. Across the solar system in Earth's orbital military dock, alert signals blared throughout a sleek, dark ship. Unlike the bulky vessels that made up most of Earth's fleet, the Wolf was built for speed and stealth. Its black hull absorbed light rather than reflecting it, making it almost invisible against the backdrop of space. On the bridge, Commander Alex Miller, known to his crew as Stone, received the mission brief. He read it twice, his weathered face showing no emotion. "Captain to all crew," he announced over the ship's communication system. "Mission alert. Prepare for immediate deployment briefing in 10 minutes. Around the ship, 24 men and women dropped what they were doing and moved with practiced efficiency. They didn't ask questions or waste time. Each had survived conditions that would kill ordinary humans. Each had been chosen for this crew because they represented the best, or worst, depending on who you asked, of what humanity could be. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Ben checked the matter-antimatter containment systems. He had grown up in the radioactive zones of old Earth, where his body had adapted to radiation levels that would kill most humans in days. In the medical bay, Dr. Lisa prepared emergency supplies. Before joining the military, she had worked in disease outbreak zones where most medical personnel refused to go without heavy protection suits. She handled deadly pathogens with the casual ease of someone sorting mail. In the armory, Weapons Officer Rita inventoried the ship's arsenal. Raised in the Australian outback, she could identify and handle hundreds of toxic creatures with her bare hands. Her knowledge of poisons and venoms made her equally adept at treating and causing harm. 10 minutes later, they gathered on the bridge. Commander Miller stood before them, his 6'4" frame solid as the rock his nickname suggested. "We've received distress call from a stellar Concord research vessel," he explained, displaying the alien coordinates on the main screen. "They've been captured by Void Marauders and have requested our help." "Marauders," spat Navigation Officer Thomas, who had spent his early years diving in Earth's deepest and most dangerous ocean trenches. "Cowards who only attack when they outnumber their targets 5-1. Miller nodded. "The Concord ship carries scientists and diplomats. No weapons, no defense systems. They've specifically requested non-violent intervention if possible." A few crew members exchanged glances. "That's not really our specialty, Commander," Rita said, voicing what everyone was thinking. "No," Miller agreed, a slight smile appearing on his face. "But Admiral Walker chose us for a reason. The Concord doesn't need us to fight the Marauders. They need us to scare them into surrender." He enlarged the image of the pirate vessel on the screen. "And there's nothing more frightening in this galaxy than humans who decide to show exactly why we come from a death world." The Wolf's engines roared to life, pushing the ship away from Earth at speeds that would crush the bones of softer species. The mission had begun. The Wolf moved through space at incredible speed. Inside the ship, Commander Alex Miller stood at the center of the bridge, watching his crew prepare for their mission. "ETA to target?" he asked. Navigation Officer Thomas checked his screens. 38 hours, Commander. We're pushing the engines to their limits." Miller nodded. The Wolf was the fastest ship in Earth's fleet, but even at top speed, the journey would take over a day. Time enough to prepare his unusual team for an unusual mission. "All senior officers to the briefing room," Miller ordered. "Time to make a plan." The briefing room was simple, with a large table surrounded by chairs. Miller watched as his team filed in and took their seats. They were a strange group, nothing like the neat uniformed crews of standard military vessels. Each person carried the marks of their unique backgrounds. Tactical Officer Rita arrived first, her arms covered with scars from countless encounters with dangerous creatures. Next came Dr. Lisa, whose calm eyes had seen horrors in disease zones that would make most soldiers sick. Chief Engineer Ben entered, his skin slightly gray from years of radiation exposure. Navigation Officer Thomas followed, his powerful shoulders, built by swimming in crushing deep-sea pressures. Security Chief Mike was last, a man who had grown up in the frozen wastelands where temperatures killed unprotected humans in minutes. 5 officers, 5 specialists in survival, and this was just the leadership team. The rest of the crew was equally impressive and equally dangerous. "Let's be clear about our mission," Miller began. "The Stellar Concord has requested our help, but they've asked for non-violent intervention if possible. This isn't our usual approach." Rita laughed. "We're not exactly known for gentle solutions, Commander." "True," Miller agreed, "but this is why Admiral Walker chose us. The Void Marauders have never faced true Deathworlders before." He activated the room's display, showing an image of the Marauder vessel. It was 3 times larger than the Wolf, with heavy weapons visible on its hull. "The Marauders prey on peaceful species because they're easy targets," Miller explained. "They've never fought humans in close quarters. They've never seen what we can do." Dr. Lisa studied the image. "What about the hostages? The Concord species is physically fragile. Their bodies can't handle stress or trauma like ours. That's why we'll focus on psychological impact rather than direct combat," Miller replied. "We want the Marauders to surrender without a fight." Security Chief Mike looked skeptical. "Pirates don't usually surrender." "They will when they realize what they're facing," Miller said with quiet confidence. "Rita, what can you tell us about Marauder biology?" Rita touched her tablet, bringing up information on the main screen. "The dominant species in the Void Marauders is Krell. They evolved on a mid-gravity world with stable climate and few predators. They have natural armor and strength, but several critical weaknesses." The screen showed a diagram of a reptilian, humanoid with thick scaled skin. "First, they cannot regulate body temperature well. Environments above 30 degrees Celsius or below 10 degrees cause them severe discomfort. Second, their respiratory system is inefficient. They require high oxygen levels and clean air. Third, their sensory organs are sensitive. Loud noises and bright lights can incapacitate them." Miller nodded. "And we're designed to survive much worse conditions than what would cripple them." He turned to his engineer. "Ben, can you modify our boarding suits to monitor and display our vital signs?" Ben considered this. "Yes, but why?" "Because I want the Marauders to see exactly what we can endure," Miller explained. "I want them to watch as we walk through environments that would kill them, with our heart rates barely changing." Understanding dawned on the crew's faces. "Psychological warfare," Mike said with appreciation. "We don't need to hurt them. We just need to terrify them." "Exactly," Miller confirmed. "The most dangerous weapon on this ship isn't in the armory. It's us, what we are, what Earth made us." For the next several hours, the crew prepared. Ben modified their tactical gear to include external vital sign displays. Dr. Lisa prepared medical kits not just for treating their own team, but also for helping injured Marauders. Rita studied the layout of the pirate vessel, identifying environmental controls that could be altered to create discomfort for the Krell without harming the Concord hostages. As the officers returned to their stations, Miller stopped Rita. "I need 5 volunteers for the boarding party, our best survivors." Rita smiled. "I volunteer, of course." "I thought you might," Miller said. "Choose 4 others, people who can demonstrate exactly why humans are classified as Deathworlders." Several hours later, Miller addressed the entire crew over the ship's communication system. "In 20 hours we will intercept the Marauder vessel," he began. "Our mission is to rescue the Concord scientists and diplomats without harming them. The Concord has specifically requested minimal violence if possible." He paused, knowing his next words needed to be clear. "This does not mean we will be gentle with the Marauders. We will show them exactly what humans are capable of. We will demonstrate why Earth is classified as a death world. We will make them understand that the only reason they survive our encounter is because we choose to let them live. Throughout the ship, the crew listened with growing excitement. They were tired of being feared from a distance, of being avoided by species who had never met them. This was their chance to show the galaxy what humans truly were. Rest well, Miller concluded. Tomorrow we teach the Void Marauders why the galaxy fears Deathworlders. In his private quarters, Miller reviewed the mission details one last view. Time. The conquered vessel carried 32 scientists and diplomats. The Marauder ship likely held at least 100 pirates. The odds seemed poor, but Miller knew numbers didn't tell the whole story. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. "Enter," he called. Dr. Lisa stepped in carrying a small case. "I've prepared specialized stimulants for the boarding party," she said. "They'll allow our team to function at peak performance in toxic environments." Miller nodded. "Side effects?" "Increased heart rate, heightened pain tolerance, and temporary suppression of fear response," Lisa replied. "Nothing dangerous for us, but the external vital sign displays will show readings that would indicate severe distress in any other species." "Perfect," Miller said. "The Marauders will think we're in agony but functioning normally." "There's something else," Lisa added, her expression serious. "I've been studying the Concord biology. They communicate partially through biochemical signals. They can literally sense fear and aggression in other species." Miller understood the implication immediately, so when they see us facing down the Marauders without fear, "They'll know we're different," Lisa confirmed. "They'll understand what we are in a way their conscious minds might never grasp." The ship's alert system suddenly activated. Thomas's voice came over the communication system. "Commander to the bridge. We've detected another vessel near the Marauder ship." Miller moved quickly with Lisa following. On the bridge, Thomas pointed to a small blip on the scanners. "It's not showing up on regular scans," Thomas explained. "I only caught it because I was running a thermal sweep of the area." Miller studied the readings. "Another Marauder ship?" "I don't think so," Thomas replied. "It's too small and it's using some kind of advanced cloaking technology. My guess is it's observing the Marauders." "Another rescue attempt?" Lisa suggested. Miller shook his head. "No. If it was Coalition or Concord, they would have informed Earth Command." "Should we alter our approach?" Thomas asked. Miller thought for a moment. "No. Maintain course and speed. But keep tracking that ship. I want to know if it makes any moves." As Thomas returned to his station, Miller stared at the mysterious blip. The mission had just become more complicated. Not only did they need to rescue the hostages and intimidate the Marauders, but now they had an unknown observer. "Whoever they are," Miller said quietly, "they're about to get an education in what happens when you corner Deathworlders." The Wolf continued its relentless journey through space, carrying its dangerous crew toward their target. In 20 hours, the Void Marauders would learn why the galaxy feared humans, and why that fear was entirely justified. The Wolf dropped out of high-speed travel with perfect precision, appearing in the shadow of a small moon. From this position, the crew could observe the Marauder vessel without being detected. "Magnify," Commander Miller ordered. The main screen zoomed in on the pirate ship. It was massive, a cobbled-together monster of stolen parts and salvage technology. Several smaller ships hovered nearby, acting as guards. "Life signs?" Miller asked. Dr. Lisa checked her readings. 143 Krell life forms on the main ship, 27 in each of the smaller vessels, and... She paused, adjusting her scanner. 32 weaker signals that match Concord biology. They're being held in the central section, security. Chief Mike studied the tactical display. "Those escort ships are positioned to intercept any approach. Standard defensive formation." Miller nodded. "They're expecting a conventional rescue attempt. Multiple ships, negotiation, maybe a small strike team." A slight smile crossed his face. "They're not expecting us." Rita entered the bridge, now dressed, in the modified boarding gear. The suit was minimal by most standards. light body armor with attached monitors displaying vital signs. No helmet, just a small breathing apparatus. "Boarding team is ready, Commander," she reported. "Final gear check complete." Miller turned to his crew. "Everyone know the plan?" They all nodded. "Then let's begin. Thomas, take us in. Full stealth mode." The Wolf moved silently through space, its black hull absorbing light and its engines running in special quiet mode. It approached from below the plane of the Marauder formation, where sensor coverage was weakest. "Communications range in 30 seconds, the communications officer reported. Miller straightened his uniform. "Put me through to them as soon as we're in range, and activate all external cameras. I want them to see us clearly." The Wolf glided closer to the massive pirate vessel, still undetected. "Communications range achieved," came the report. "Open channel," Miller ordered. "Visual and audio." The main screen split, showing the Wolf's approach from an external camera on one side. The other side remained blank as they waited for the Marauders to respond. "Attention, Void Marauder vessel," Miller spoke clearly. "This is Commander Alexander Miller of the United Earth Command ship Wolf. We are responding to a distress call from the Stellar Concord research vessel you are currently holding. Release your captives immediately." For several seconds there was no response. Then the blank side of the screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the Marauder ship. At its center stood a large reptilian being, scales gleaming under harsh lights, yellow eyes narrowed in surprise. "Humans?" the Krell captain hissed, sharp teeth visible as he spoke. "One small ship? Coming alone?" He let out a barking laugh that was echoed by his bridge crew. "You have courage, I admit, but foolishness will get you killed very painfully." Miller remained expressionless. "Captain Drex of the Void Marauders, your reputation precedes you. I'll say this once more. Release the Concord scientists and diplomats and we'll allow you to leave peacefully." Drex's yellow eyes widened slightly at hearing his name, but his surprise quickly turned to amusement. "You know my name?" "I'm flattered," he said mockingly. "But you should also know that I command 5 ships and nearly 300 warriors. You have—" "What?" "One small vessel, with perhaps 25 humans." He leaned closer to his screen. "Leave now, or join our collection. I've never owned human slaves before. It would be interesting." Miller nodded slightly as if accepting the decision. "Chief Engineer, activate ramming protocols." On the split screen, the Marauders could be seen suddenly tensing, some even laughing at what seemed like a suicidal order. "Thomas, full speed. Target the gap between the 2 left escort vessels." Without warning, the Wolf accelerated to attack speed. The force of the sudden movement would have killed most species, crushing them under the pressure. Inside the Wolf, the crew barely noticed, their bodies long accustomed to extreme forces. On the screen, Drex's expression changed from amusement to confusion. "What are you—" His words were cut off as the Wolf slammed through the defensive perimeter, deliberately clipping one of the escort ships. The smaller vessel spun away, damaged but not destroyed. The impact should have triggered emergency protocols on the Wolf, but the ship continued operating perfectly. Alarms blared throughout the bridge, but Miller calmly turned them off. "Damage report?" he asked, his voice steady. "Minor hull breach in Section 4, Ben reported from engineering. Already sealed. All systems functional." On the split screen, chaos had erupted on the Marauder bridge. The artificial gravity had fluctuated from the impact, sending several crew members flying. Emergency lights flashed and warning sirens wailed. "Boarding party deploy," Miller ordered calmly. Rita and 4 other crew members moved quickly to the airlock. They carried minimal equipment, small packs with special tools, basic weapons they likely wouldn't use, and the medical kits Dr. Lisa had prepared. Their vital sign monitors were activated, displaying numbers that would indicate severe stress in any normal being, but were merely elevated for humans from Earth. The Wolf positioned itself directly against the Marauder ship's hull, magnetic clamps engaging to create a stable connection. The boarding team entered the airlock as engineering prepared to breach the pirate vessel's outer wall. "Remember," Rita told her team, We're not here to kill. We're here to terrify. The breach was quick and precise. A section of the Marauder, hull peeled away, exposing the interior to space. Emergency force fields activated immediately on both ships, preventing catastrophic decompression. Rita stepped through first, her team following. They immediately faced their first challenge. The atmosphere inside the Marauder ship was toxic to humans, high in sulfur compounds and low in oxygen. The temperature was nearly freezing, and the gravity almost double Earth standard. The boarding team activated their breathing apparatus but wore no protective suits. Their skin was exposed to the toxic air, the freezing temperature, and the crushing gravity. Inside the corridor, 3 Krell guards had responded to the breach. They wore full environmental armor and carried heavy weapons, clearly expecting a conventional boarding team in full spacesuits. What they saw instead froze them in place. 5 humans walked calmly through conditions that should have killed them instantly. Their exposed skin reddened slightly from the toxic atmosphere, but they showed no signs of distress. The monitors, on their gear, displayed vital signs that would indicate agony in any Krell, yet the humans moved with easy confidence. What are you?" one guard stammered, his weapon wavering. Rita smiled, a predator's expression. "We're from Earth." The guards opened fire. Energy beams struck the walls as the humans moved with surprising speed despite the high gravity. Rita ducked under a shot and closed the distance to the first guard. She grabbed his weapon arm and twisted. Not enough to break it, but enough to demonstrate her strength in the crushing gravity that should have weakened her. The guard howled in surprise and pain, dropping his weapon. The other boarding team members similarly disarmed the remaining guards without using their own weapons. Within moments, all 3 Krell were disarmed and restrained with simple zip ties. "Take us to your holding cells," Rita ordered the lead guard, "where the Concord scientists are kept." "The air will kill you before you get there," the guard said, still unable to believe what he was seeing. "And security will stop you." Rita checked her vital sign monitor, showing it to the guard. "We've been breathing your air for 3 minutes. Now, according to your biology standards, we should already be dead." She leaned closer. "Your security can't stop what they can't understand." As they moved deeper into the ship, alarms blared throughout the vessel. The boarding team encountered more guards, but word had already begun to spread. The humans weren't using weapons. They didn't need to. In a side corridor, a desperate Krell warrior ambushed the group, driving a poisoned blade into Rita's shoulder. She grunted in pain, then calmly pulled out the knife and examined it. "Interesting compound," she noted, pocketing the blade. "Our biochemists will want to study this." She then continued walking, the wound already beginning to clot thanks to the enhanced healing factors all Earth humans possessed. The Krell attacker backed away in horror, then turned and ran. On the Wolf's Bridge, Miller watched the boarding team's progress through their body cameras. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The Marauders were beginning to understand what they were facing. Not just enemies with weapons, but creatures who could survive in environments that should kill them. "Commander," communications called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the mysterious vessel we detected earlier." Miller raised an eyebrow. "Put it through." The screen changed to show a being unlike any the crew had seen before. Neither human nor Krell nor Concord. The alien observed Miller with multiple eyes that blinked in sequence. "Most fascinating approach, Commander Miller," the alien said in perfect English. "We have been studying the Void Marauders for some time, but your demonstration is quite educational." Miller kept his expression neutral. "And you are?" "An interested observer," the alien replied. "Please continue. The galaxy will be very interested in the outcome of this encounter." As the transmission ended, Miller realized their mission had just become something much bigger than a simple rescue operation. They were now performing on a galactic stage. The boarding team moved deeper into the Marauder ship, following the frightened Krell guard who had surrendered. The toxic atmosphere continued to irritate their skin, turning it red, but the humans showed no signs of serious distress. Their breathing apparatus filtered just enough oxygen to keep them functioning, though any non-Deathworlder would have needed a full environmental suit. Rita checked the ship layout on her small wrist display. The holding cells should be 2 levels down, she said. We need to find a lift or stairs. The Krell guard pointed shakily down a side corridor. Lift tube there, but Central Command will have locked it down by now. One of Rita's team, a tall man named Jack who had grown up in Earth's harshest desert regions, smiled. Then we'll take the maintenance shafts. The guard's eyes widened. The maintenance shafts have no life support, and they're half-sized. Perfect, Rita replied. She turned to her team. Jack, lead the way. They found the maintenance access panel and pulled it open. Inside was a narrow vertical shaft with ladder rungs built for smaller maintenance robots, not humanoid bodies. The space was dark, filled with pipes releasing steam and noxious gases with temperature warnings posted in Krell language. You first, Rita told the guard, who shook his head in terror. I can't go in there without a suit. The heat in the lower sections will cook me alive. Jack shrugged and entered the shaft first. His large frame barely fit, but he moved with surprising grace, descending quickly. The other team members followed, leaving Rita with the guard. Wait here, she ordered him. Try to run, and we'll find you. Then she too disappeared into the shaft. The maintenance tunnel grew hotter as they descended. Warning gauges on the wall showed temperatures that would cause severe burns to Krell skin. The humans' vital sign monitors beeped more rapidly as their core temperatures rose, but they continued downward. On the Wolf's Bridge, Commander Miller watched their progress through body cameras. Dr. Lisa stood beside him, monitoring the team's vital signs on her medical tablet. They're approaching their limits, she noted. Body temperatures rising beyond safe levels. Miller nodded. How long can they last? In those conditions? Another 20 minutes before risk of permanent damage. She paused. A Krell would be dead in under 2 minutes. Miller switched his view to the ship's external cameras. Several Marauder crew members had gathered near the breach point, wearing full environmental suits and carrying cutting tools. They were attempting to detach the Wolf from their hull. Engineering, Miller called. Status report on our uninvited guests? They're trying to cut through the magnetic locks, Ben replied from engineering. Should I stop them? No, Miller decided. Let them work, but activate external temperature controls. I want our hull hot enough to be uncomfortable through their suits. The Wolf's external hull began to heat up, glowing slightly red where it connected to the Marauder ship. On the camera feed, the Krell workers could be seen backing away, their suits not designed for such extreme heat. Inside the maintenance shaft, Rita's team reached the lower level. Jack pushed open an access panel and peered out into a corridor. Clear, he whispered, but I can hear guards nearby. The team squeezed through the opening, their skin now covered with sweat and minor burns from the hot pipes. To any observer, they looked like they had just crawled through hell and survived. They moved quietly down the corridor toward the holding cells. Around a corner, 5 Krell guards stood at attention outside a heavy door. They were heavily armed and clearly nervous. Rita signaled her team to hold position while she considered options. Before she could decide, the ship's communication system activated. Captain Drex's voice echoed through the corridors. Attention, human boarders. You have penetrated our outer defenses through sheer insanity. I am impressed. But this has gone far enough. Return to your vessel immediately, or we will execute 1 conquered hostage every 5 minutes. Rita looked at her team. They had expected this threat. It was time for the next phase of their plan. Activate, she said into her communicator. On the Wolf, Miller received Rita's signal. Execute Phase 2, he ordered. Throughout the Marauder vessel, the environmental systems suddenly went haywire. The ship's temperature controls failed, some sections becoming freezing cold while others heated up to unbearable levels. The already toxic air became thicker with pollutants as filtration systems reversed. Gravity fluctuated wildly in different sections. In the corridor outside the holding cells, the Krell guards staggered as the gravity increased to 3 times normal. The temperature plummeted, making their cold-blooded bodies sluggish. They struggled to remain standing, their weapons suddenly too heavy to hold properly. Rita and her team walked calmly into view. In the increased gravity, the humans moved with effort but determination. Their bodies, evolved on a heavy world, could handle the strain. "What are you?" one guard gasped, his scaled skin already developing frost. Rita's team didn't bother fighting. They simply walked past the incapacitated guards and approached the door. One team member, a former safecracker named Pete, quickly bypassed the lock. The door slid open. Inside, 32 conquered beings huddled together. Their thin, luminescent bodies trembled in fear. Unlike the Krell, they weren't suffering from the environmental changes. Rita had made sure their holding area remained stable. "We're from Earth," Rita announced. "We've come to rescue you." The Concord scientists stared in wonder. One stepped forward, clearly a leader. "You're humans?" the alien asked, dark eyes wide. "Deathworlders?" Rita nodded. "United Earth Command. Special Operations, we're here to take you home." "But there are hundreds of marauders," the Concord leader said, "and only a few of you." "Numbers don't matter," Rita replied simply. "We need to move quickly." "Can your people walk?" The Concord began to gather their few belongings while Rita's team prepared to escort them. Suddenly, ship-wide alarms activated. Again with a different tone, "Captain Drex to all hands," came the announcement. "Prepare for battle stations. The human vessel is not alone. Repeat, the human vessel is not alone." Rita frowned, touching her communicator. "Commander, what's happening?" On the Wolf's Bridge, Miller watched as multiple new ships appeared on their sensors, dropping out of high-speed travel near the mysterious observer's vessel. "We have company," Miller replied. "Several ships just arrived. Unknown configuration." The main screen showed 3 sleek vessels approaching the Marauder ship. They were unlike any design in human or known alien databases. "They're hailing all ships in the area," communications reported. "Put it through," Miller ordered. The screen changed to show the same multi-eyed alien they had seen earlier. "Attention all vessels. This is Observer Tix of the Galactic Council Research Division. We have been monitoring this situation with great interest. The human rescue operation has provided valuable data on Deathworlder capabilities. However, the experiment must now conclude." Miller's expression hardened. "Experiment. Those are people, being held hostage, not lab subjects." "Indeed," the alien replied calmly. "And your demonstration of human capabilities has been most educational. We will now extract the Concord scientists ourselves." "No," Miller said firmly. "My people are already on board. We will complete our mission." The alien's multiple eyes blinked in sequence. "Fascinating response. Very well, Commander. You may proceed, but be aware that you are now participating in a formal Galactic Council assessment of Deathworlder intervention capabilities. Your actions will determine much about humanity's future standing." The transmission ended, leaving Miller stunned. What had begun as a rescue mission had somehow become a test, one that would affect how the entire galaxy viewed humanity. "Commander," Security Chief Mike spoke up, "if this is some kind of test, we should make sure we pass it. On our terms." Miller nodded slowly. "Rita," he called through the communicator, "change of plans. We're being watched by the Galactic Council. They're treating this as some kind of test of human capabilities." "So what do we do?" Rita asked, her voice calm despite the revelation. Miller thought for a moment. "Complete the mission as planned, but make it educational. It's time for the final demonstration." Back in the holding area, Rita turned to her team. "New orders. We're going to the command center." One team member looked concerned. "With the Conquered scientists, they could get hurt." "No," Rita replied. "We'll secure them in the escape pods first. Then we're going to have a chat with Captain Drex. The Galactic Council is watching, and Commander wants us to make an impression." The team moved quickly, escorting the grateful Conquered scientists toward the escape pod bay. All around them, the Marauder ship continued to experience environmental chaos. Most Krell crew members had retreated to areas with stable life support, leaving corridors empty. As they approached the escape pods, Rita's communicator beeped with a message from Miller. "Remember," his voice came through clearly, "we're not just rescuing hostages anymore. We're representing humanity to the galaxy. Make it count." Rita smiled grimly. Trust me, Commander. By the time we're done, no one in the galaxy will ever forget what Deathworlders are capable of. Rita and her team quickly secured the conquered scientist in the escape pods. These small vessels were designed to support life for several days, more than enough time for proper rescue ships to arrive. You'll be safe here, Rita told the conquered leader, whose name was Trell. The pods have independent life support and communication systems. Once we've finished our business with Captain Drex, we'll signal for your retrieval. Trell's luminescent skin pulsed with blue light, a sign of strong emotion among the conquered. You're not leaving with us, but your mission was to rescue us. Our mission has expanded, Rita explained. The Galactic Council is watching. We need to make sure the Marauders never threaten peaceful species again. Through violence? Trell asked, dark eyes concerned. Our request specifically asked for nonviolent intervention if possible. Rita smiled. We haven't fired a single weapon since boarding, and we don't plan to start now. She tapped the vital sign monitor on her chest. Our greatest weapon is what we are. After securing the Concorde, Rita's team made their way toward the command center. The ship's environmental systems were still in chaos, creating perfect conditions for their approach. Most corridors were either too hot, too cold, or had air too toxic for Krell to function normally. Commander, Rita called through her communicator. Concorde scientists secure in escape pods. We're proceeding to the command center. Any update on our audience? On the Wolf's Bridge, Miller watched as the Galactic Council ships maintained their position, observing but not interfering. They're still watching, he replied. All three vessels have their sensors focused on the Marauder ship. They're recording. Everything. Good, Rita said. Time for the final act. The command center of the Marauder vessel was large, with elevated platforms for senior officers and a central chair for Captain Drex. When Rita's team arrived at the sealed doors, they found 20 Krell guards waiting. Unlike the others they had encountered, these guards wore full environmental suits designed for extreme conditions. Their weapons were raised and ready. This won't be as easy, Jack muttered. They're prepared for us now. Rita nodded. Then we'll have to be impressive. She touched her communicator. Ben, we need a distraction at the command center. In the Wolf's engineering section, Chief Engineer Ben grinned. With pleasure. He made rapid adjustments to the ship's systems, targeting the Marauder vessel's power distribution. Throughout the pirate ship, lights flickered and died. Emergency systems activated, then failed as well. Within seconds, the entire vessel was plunged into darkness. Only the faint glow of emergency chemical lights remained. The guards outside the command center panicked as their suit systems fluctuated, their communications filled with confused chatter. Rita's team moved fast. In the darkness, they slipped between the guards, using non-lethal combat techniques to disable them quickly. Their eyes, adapted to Earth's varying light conditions, adjusted, much faster than the Krell's more specialized vision. Within moments, the 20 guards lay unconscious or restrained. Not a single shot had been fired. Jack bypassed the door controls and the command center opened. Inside, Captain Drex and his bridge crew worked frantically by emergency lighting to restore systems. Hello, Captain, Rita said calmly as her team entered. Drex spun around, yellow eyes wide with shock. How did you... He stopped when he saw his elite guards were gone. What do you want? The hostages are yours. Take them and leave. Rita walked forward, her team spreading out behind her. The bridge crew backed away, many abandoning their stations. We've already secured the conquered scientists, Rita explained. But there's something else we need to discuss. Drex reached for a weapon on his belt, but stopped when he saw Rita watching him with amusement. You've hunted peaceful species for years, Rita continued, walking slowly around the command center. You've taken advantage of those who can't fight back. You've assumed that being physically stronger than your victims made you powerful. She stopped directly in front of him. But you've never encountered true predators before. The vital sign monitors on Rita's team continued to display readings that would indicate severe distress in any Krell. Elevated heart rates, high body temperatures, stress hormones at maximum levels. Yet the humans moved and spoke as if completely comfortable. What are you going to do? Drex asked, his voice barely steady. Kill us all? Rita shook her head. No. That would be easy, but not very interesting. Instead, I'm going to tell you a story about Earth. She reached into her pack and pulled out a small container. Opening it carefully, she revealed a simple earth insect, a fire ant. This is a common creature from our world, she explained, allowing the ant to crawl onto her hand. One bite from this tiny thing causes pain that your species would consider unbearable. To human children, it's a minor nuisance. The Krell bridge crew watched in horrified fascination. Humans evolved on a planet that would kill most sentient species within minutes, Rita continued. Our bodies can process toxins that would destroy your organs. We can survive temperature ranges that would shut down your biological functions. We can endure radiation levels that would make your cells disintegrate. She walked around the command center, letting each Krell see the fire ant on her hand. We don't want to hurt you, Rita said. But we absolutely can, without even trying. Very hard. She nodded to her team, who produced medical kits and began treating the injured Krell guards they had brought into the command center. What are they doing? Drex asked, confused. Treating your wounded, Rita explained. With medicine designed for human biology, thousands of times stronger than what your systems could handle. Our medics have to be extremely careful not to accidentally kill you with our basic painkillers. As the demonstration continued, Miller's voice came through Rita's communicator. The Galactic Council ships are moving, he reported. They're approaching the Marauder vessel. Rita nodded to her team. It's time. Captain Drex, we're leaving now. But first, you're going to make an announcement to all Void Marauders everywhere. 20 minutes later, Rita's team returned to the Wolf through the breach point. Behind them, Captain Drex's message was being transmitted to all Marauder ships throughout the sector. The Void Marauders would never again attack conquered vessels or any peaceful species. Any who violated this order would face the consequences, not from coalition forces, but from the humans of Earth. As the Wolf disengaged from the Marauder ship, the Galactic Council vessels moved closer. A transmission came through to Commander Miller. Most educational, Commander, Observer Tick said, multiple eyes blinking in sequence. The Council has never witnessed such an effective non-lethal intervention. Your species continues to surprise us. Miller stood straight on his bridge. We were just doing our job, Observer. The Concord asked for help and we provided it. Indeed, but you should know that this was more than a simple observation mission, Tix replied. For centuries, the Council has debated whether to invite Deathworld species into the galactic community. Many feared your kind would be too aggressive, too dangerous to integrate with peaceful civilizations. Miller understood now. This was a test. A test you passed remarkably well, Tix confirmed. You demonstrated power but also restraint. Violence was available to you, but you chose intimidation instead. Most interesting. As the transmission ended, Miller turned to his bridge crew. Set course for the rendezvous point with the Concord fleet. It's time to bring the scientists home. The Wolf moved away from the Marauder ship, which now drifted powerless but intact. The Galactic Council vessels escorted the escape pods containing the conquered scientists. In the medical bay, Dr. Lisa treated Rita's team for their various minor injuries, burns from the hot maintenance shafts, bruises from the fighting, and exposure to the toxic atmosphere. You know, Lisa said as she applied burn ointment to Rita's arm, for a mission where we weren't supposed to hurt anyone, you all managed to get pretty beat up yourselves. Rita laughed. Occupational hazard of being a Deathworlder. 2 days later, the Wolf reached the rendezvous point where a large Conquered vessel waited. The handover was brief but cordial. Trell, the Conquered leader, personally thanked Commander Miller and his crew. We requested nonviolent intervention, Trell said. You honored that request technically, but your methods were unexpected. Miller nodded. Humanity has learned that sometimes showing what we could do is more effective than actually doing it. The Galactic Coalition has always classified Earth as a dangerous place, Trell continued. Now I understand it's not the planet that's dangerous, it's that the planet created you. As the Wolf headed back toward Earth, News of their mission spread throughout nearby systems. The story grew with each retelling, how a single human ship faced down the most feared pirates in the sector without firing a shot, how the boarding party walked through toxic environments as if taking a pleasant stroll, how they treated their enemies' wounds with the same skill they used to inflict them. Admiral Walker received the mission report with satisfaction. On Earth, the Wolf's unusual crew were already preparing for their next deployment. But something had changed in the galaxy's perception of humanity. For centuries, Earth was avoided because it was classified as a death world. Now, for the first time, humans were being approached by other species, not with fear, but with cautious respect. The Concord had formally requested human protection for future scientific missions. They used to call us Deathworlders as an insult, Admiral Walker remarked to Captain James as they watched the Wolf dock. Now they're calling us when death is exactly what they're trying to avoid. In the vast expanse of space, word continued to spread. If you need protection from the most dangerous forces in the galaxy, seek help from those who survived the most dangerous world of all.
The massive window on the bridge of ESS Defiant showed nothing but enemy ships. They filled the black of space like angry red stars, stretching as far as the eye could see. Captain James Miller stood with his hands behind his back, his face showing no fear even though his ship was the last one standing between Earth and total destruction. 3 days ago, there had been 50 ships in Earth's defense fleet. Now there was only the Defiant. The enemy had taken out every other ship one by one, but somehow they hadn't been able to destroy the Defiant. Miller knew why. His ship was special. It was Earth's newest and most advanced ship, filled with technology that even he didn't fully understand. "Captain, they're sending another message," said Tom Walker, the young communications officer. His hands were shaking slightly as he worked at his station, but his voice stayed steady. Miller liked that about him. The kid was scared, but didn't let it stop him from doing his job. "Put it on the main screen," Miller ordered. He turned to face the large display at the front of the bridge as it flickered to life. The face that appeared was alien, but somehow still managed to look smug. The creature had gray skin that seemed to shimmer like metal and eyes that glowed with an unnatural red light. "This is Supreme Commander Racton of the Stellar Empire," the alien said. Its voice was deep and scratchy, like rocks being crushed. "Your pathetic resistance ends now. Surrender your vessel, and we may spare your worthless lives." Miller didn't answer right away. He looked around at his bridge crew, 15 men and women who had fought alongside him for the past week of endless battles. They were tired, but none of them looked beaten. Even after watching 49 other ships get destroyed, they still believed they could win. Miller wasn't going to let them down. "Supreme Commander," Miller said, keeping his voice calm and relaxed, "I have a counteroffer. Why don't you surrender to us? It would save us both a lot of time." The alien's face twisted in rage. "You dare mock the might of the Empire? We have 3,000 ships surrounding your position. You have one damaged vessel." Miller smiled. "Then it seems like a fair fight." The alien commander slammed his fist down on something off-screen. "You have 1 hour to surrender. After that, we will destroy your ship and then we will burn your planet to ash." The screen went black. "Sir," said Lisa Reed from the science station, "he wasn't lying about those numbers. I'm counting 2,847 enemy vessels. They've arranged themselves in an attack sphere around us. There's no way through their lines." "There's always a way, Lieutenant," Miller said. He walked over to his command chair and sat down, thinking hard about their options. The Defiant was humanity's most advanced ship, but it was still just one ship. They had some tricks up their sleeve, but against almost 3,000 enemy vessels. Suddenly, a new voice spoke up, one that didn't come from any of the crew. "Captain Miller, I believe now would be an appropriate time to inform you of my full capabilities." Everyone on the bridge looked around in surprise. They all knew the ship's artificial intelligence, which they called Max, but it had never spoken without being spoken to first. "What do you mean, Max?" Miller asked, leaning forward in his chair. I am not merely a standard ship AI, Captain. I am an experimental quantum intelligence, and this ship carries technologies that even you have not been briefed about. We were designed to be humanity's last resort, a weapon that could only be revealed when all other options were exhausted. Miller felt a chill run down his spine. What kind of weapon? The kind that turns an enemy's strength against them, Max replied. The Empire believes they are stronger because they have more ships. They do not realize that every one of those ships is an opportunity for us. The ship's main screen change, showing complex diagrams and specifications that Miller had never seen before. When I was activated, Max continued, I began analyzing every piece of enemy technology I could detect. I have discovered something fascinating. Their entire fleet runs on standardized systems. One code base, copied across thousands of ships. They value uniformity over innovation. And how does that help us? Asked Chief Engineer Marcus Thompson, who had been quietly monitoring his station. Because, Chief Thompson, I was designed to exploit exactly that kind of weakness. Inside my quantum processors, I carry what you might call a virus, though that word barely describes its true nature. It is an adaptive program that can infiltrate and rewrite any computer system it encounters. And once it enters the Empire's network, it could spread to their entire fleet. Miller finished, finally understanding. He stood up from his chair, new energy flowing through him. How do we deliver this virus? We need to get close to their command ship, Max said. Close enough to establish a quantum link. But there is a problem. At our current position, we would be destroyed by their combined firepower before we could get within range. Miller walked to the front of the bridge, staring out at the sea of enemy ships. They had less than an hour before the Empire attacked. They needed a plan, and they needed it fast. As he watched, he saw some debris from the earlier battles float past the window, and suddenly an idea hit him. Max, he said, how good are your stealth systems? The best ever created by human science, Captain. But even they cannot hide us from 3,000 ships actively scanning for us. Miller smiled. They don't need to. They just need to hide the fact that we're still alive. He turned to face his crew. Listen up, everyone. I have a plan. It's crazy and it's dangerous, and it might get us all killed. But if it works, we might just save Earth and take down an empire in the process. The crew looked at him with a mixture of fear and determination. They had followed him through a week of impossible battles. They would follow him through this too. What's the plan, sir? Asked Walker, sitting up straighter at his station. We're going to die, Miller said. Or at least we're going to make them think we died. Max, how close do we need to get to their command ship to upload your virus? Within 5 kilometers, Captain. Any further, and a quantum link would be too weak to guarantee successful transmission. Miller nodded. All right then. Here's what we're going to do. When their ultimatum runs out, they're going to attack. We're going to put on a show, make them think they've destroyed us. Then, we'll power down everything except basic life support and drift through their fleet like we're just another piece of wreckage, right toward their command ship. The bridge was silent as everyone considered this plan. It was Lieutenant Reed who spoke first. Sir, if we power down that much, we'll have no shields, no weapons, and minimal life support. If they scan us, they won't, Miller said confidently. You saw how their commander acted. They're arrogant. They think they've already won. Why would they waste time scanning the destroyed ship? The plan has a 37% chance of success, Max added, which, given our current alternatives, represents our best option. Miller looked around at his crew. I won't order any of you to do this. If we're detected, we'll be destroyed with no chance to fight back. If anyone wants to use the escape pods before we start, I'll understand. One by one, the crew members stood at their stations. No one moved toward the exit. They were all scared. Miller could see it in their eyes, but they were also ready to do whatever it took to save their world. Very well, Miller said. He walked back to his chair and sat down. Stations, everyone. We have 40 minutes to prepare for our own destruction. Let's make it convincing. He looked up at the ceiling, where he imagined Max's presence to be. And Max, I want to know everything about this virus of yours. If we're going to unleash it on the Empire's fleet, I want to know exactly what it's going to do. As his crew began their preparations, Miller allowed himself a small smile. The Empire thought they had humanity trapped and beaten. They were about to learn a hard lesson about underestimating their opponents. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon wasn't the biggest ship or the strongest army. Sometimes it was a single vessel with the right technology and a crew crazy enough to use it. The next 30 minutes on the bridge of the Defiant were filled with intense activity. While the crew prepared for their fake destruction, Max explained more about the virus hidden in its systems. The AI's voice remained calm as it revealed secrets that made the crew's eyes widen in amazement. The virus was designed to be unstoppable once released. Max explained, "It doesn't just take over systems, it learns and adapts. Every ship it infects makes it stronger and smarter. The Empire won't be able to stop it because it will keep changing faster than they can fight it." Chief Engineer Thompson shook his head in wonder as he looked at the technical details on his screen. This is incredible, but also terrifying. Why didn't they tell us about this weapon before? Because, Miller said, understanding now, if the Empire knew we had this, they would never have attacked us directly. They would have found another way. We needed them to commit their entire fleet. He looked at his tactical display, where thousands of red dots surrounded their single blue one. And they have. "Sir," called out Walker from communications, "we're receiving reports from Earth. The Empire's ships are moving into attack positions. 20 minutes until their ultimatum expires." Miller nodded. "Time to get ready. Thompson, start shutting down non-essential systems. Reed, I want you to calculate the exact course we'll need to drift toward their command ship. Max, show us which one that is." On the main screen, one of the enemy ships lit up brighter than the others. It was massive, at least 10 times the size of the Defiant. Around it, other ships moved in complex patterns, protecting their leader. "That's our target," Miller said. "Once we get close enough, Max can upload the virus. But first, we need to convince them they've destroyed us." He pressed a button on his chair. "All hands. This is the captain. In 20 minutes, we're going to let the Empire think they've won. We'll be running on minimal power, no heat, no gravity, barely enough air to breathe. It will be cold, dark, and uncomfortable. But if we can fool them, we can save Earth. Stand by for further instructions." As the minutes ticked by, the crew worked quickly to prepare. They stored loose items that might float in zero gravity. They put on warm clothes to fight the coming cold. Engineers set up emergency batteries to keep basic life support running while everything else was powered down. 5 minutes to deadline, Walker announced. The tension on the bridge was thick enough to cut with a knife. Miller stood up from his chair. "Max, are you ready?" "Yes, Captain. I have prepared a very convincing explosion. When their weapons hit our shields, I will create a blast that will fool their sensors. We will appear to break apart spectacularly." "Good. Thompson, how long can we survive on minimal power?" The chief engineer looked worried. 6 hours, maybe 7 if we're lucky. After that, we'll run out of heat and air. The cold will get us before the lack of oxygen does. Then we better make sure we reach that command ship in less than 6 hours. Miller looked around at his crew. "Everyone ready? This is going to get rough." The crew nodded. They all knew the risks. If anything went wrong, if the Empire spotted them, if they drifted off course, if the virus didn't work, they would die. But they would die anyway if they did nothing, and their whole planet would die with them. 1 minute to deadline, Walker said quietly. Miller sat back in his chair and gripped the armrests. "All right, Max, let's give them a show they'll never forget." The minutes ticked down to 0. On the main screen, they watched as thousands of enemy ships began to move. Weapons powered up across the Empire's fleet, creating a light show that would have been beautiful if it wasn't meant to kill them. Multiple weapons locked on us, Reed reported. They're going to hit us from all sides. Hold steady, Miller ordered. Wait for it. The first shots came like a wave of light. The Defiant's shields lit up as they absorbed the attack. More shots followed, hundreds of them, thousands, all focusing on the single Earth ship that dared to stand against an Empire. Shields at 60%. Thompson called out. 40%, 20%. Now, Max, Miller shouted. The ship's AI acted instantly. As the next wave of shots hit their shields, Max created a massive explosion that looked like their shields failing completely. The blast was perfectly timed, perfectly realistic. To anyone watching, it would look like the Defiant had finally been overwhelmed by the Empire's attack. At the same time, every system on the ship shut down. The lights went out. The artificial gravity failed. The constant hum of engines that the crew had lived with for so long went silent. Emergency red lights came on, running on battery power, casting scary shadows across the bridge. Through the windows, they could see pieces of their ship seeming to break away and scatter. But these weren't real pieces. They were special devices designed to fool enemy sensors, making it look like the Defiant had been blown to pieces. All stations, report, Miller said softly. In the silence of their powered-down ship, he didn't need to speak loudly. Weapons offline, came one reply. Engines offline, came another. Life support at minimal levels, Thompson reported. Temperature already starting to drop. The crew began to float in their seats as the artificial gravity fully failed. They had all strapped themselves down, expecting this, but it was still a strange feeling. External cameras show the explosion was convincing, Reed said, checking the readings on her emergency screen. They've stopped firing. They think we're dead. Miller allowed himself a small smile. Good. Now comes the hard part. Reed, are we on the right course? The science officer checked her calculations. Yes, sir. The explosion pushed us in exactly the right direction. At our current drift speed, we'll reach the command ship in 5 hours and 20 minutes. 5 hours and 20 minutes, Miller repeated. He could already feel the cold starting to creep in. Without power to the heating systems, the ship would slowly freeze. They would have to endure it, floating in darkness, pretending to be dead, hoping the Empire didn't look too closely at the wreckage. Sir, Walker whispered, the Empire is broadcasting. They're celebrating their victory. Let them celebrate, Miller said. Pride comes before a fall. And they're about to fall harder than anyone in history. He looked around at his crew, their faces lit only by the dim red emergency lights. Everyone try to stay warm. Move around if you have to, but be careful. We don't want to create any heat signatures they might detect. And remember, we only have to endure this for 5 hours. Just 5 hours, and then we can show the Empire what humanity is really capable of. As the Defiant drifted through space, looking like just another piece of destroyed ship floating among the debris of battle, the Empire's fleet began to spread out. They thought they had won. They thought Earth's last defense was destroyed. They didn't know that their greatest enemy was floating right through their lines, carrying a weapon that would bring their entire empire crashing down. In the cold and darkness of the powered-down ship, Miller watched the massive Imperial command ship slowly growing larger in the distance. 5 hours was a long time to drift through space, especially in the growing cold. But when he looked at his crew, he saw the same determination in their eyes that he felt in his heart. They would endure. They would survive. And when they reached that command ship, the Empire would learn that they had made a terrible mistake in underestimating humanity. The first 2 hours of drifting were the easiest. The crew of the Defiant kept themselves busy checking emergency systems and monitoring the Empire's fleet through passive sensors that used almost no power. The cold was uncomfortable, but not yet dangerous. They could still feel their fingers and toes, and their breath wasn't visible in the dim red emergency lighting. But by the third hour, things got worse. The temperature had dropped well below freezing. Ice crystals formed on the inside of the windows. Every breath came out as a white cloud. The crew wrapped themselves in emergency blankets, but the cold found ways to creep in anyway. "Status report," Miller said through chattering teeth. Like everyone else, he was strapped into his seat to keep from floating away in the zero gravity. "Temperature is -10 degrees and still falling," Thompson reported, his voice shaking from the cold. "We've got ice forming on some of the internal sensors. If it gets much colder, we might start losing systems." "Hull temperature is nearly at zero," Reed added. "The good news is that makes us look even more like debris. The bad news is we're all going to freeze if this takes much longer." Miller nodded, then looked at the main screen where Max was tracking their progress. "How much longer until we reach the target?" 2 hours and 47 minutes at current drift velocity," Max replied. The guy's voice was the only one that didn't shake from the cold. "However, we have a more immediate problem. 3 Imperial scout ships are moving through the debris field. They appear to be looking for survivors." The crew tensed. This was something they had feared might happen. Their fake destruction had been convincing, but the Empire was being thorough. "How close will they come to us?" Miller asked. "At their current course, the nearest scout will pass within 100 meters of our position in approximately 17 minutes. Miller thought quickly. They couldn't power up weapons or shields. That would give them away instantly. They couldn't change course. Their drift had to look natural. They had to find another way. "Thompson," he said, "what if we vented some plasma from the starboard tubes? Made it look like radiation leaking from battle damage?" The chief engineer thought for a moment. "It would use some of our emergency power, but it might work. Radiation leaks are common in destroyed ships. If we time it right, it might even push us a little further from their scanning range." "Do it," Miller ordered. "But make it look random. Natural." While Thompson worked on the plasma leak, Miller watched the scout ships through the frozen windows. They were small compared to the other Imperial ships, but still bigger than the Defiant. Their sharp, angular designs made them look like predatory birds circling through the debris field. "Scout ship approaching," Max announced. "They are using active scanners." Everyone held their breath. The scout ship grew larger in their view, its scanning beams sweeping through the wreckage. Just then, Thompson activated the plasma vent. A soft purple cloud leaked from the Defiant's side, spreading out in the zero gravity like glowing fog. The scout ship scanners passed over them once, twice. Miller's hands gripped his chair so hard his knuckles turned white. If they were discovered now. "Scout ship is changing course," Max reported. "The radiation leak appears to have convinced them we are no threat. They are moving away." The crew let out a collective sigh of relief, which turned into white puffs in the freezing air. "Good work, Thompson," Miller said. "But don't celebrate yet. We've still got a long way to go, and it's only going to get colder." He was right. Over the next hour, the temperature dropped another 10 degrees. The emergency blankets became stiff with frost. Every surface in the ship was covered with a thin layer of ice. The crew had to keep moving their arms and legs to prevent frostbite, but even that small movement was becoming difficult. "See, Captain," Walker called out, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm picking up Imperial communications. They're sending ships to Earth. They're going to start bombing." "They won't have time," Miller said firmly. "How long until we reach the command ship, Max?" 1 hour and 12 minutes, Captain. However, I must inform you that the crew's core body temperatures are dropping to dangerous levels. Even with the emergency power we have left, we may not be able to keep life support running long enough to complete the mission." Miller looked around at his crew. Their faces were pale, their lips turning blue from the cold. Some were shivering so hard they could barely stay in their seats, but none of them suggested giving up. None of them asked to power up the engines and make a run for it. They all knew what was at stake. "We've come too far to fail now," Miller said. "Thompson, divert power from everything except life support and Max's core systems. Shut down every sensor we're not absolutely using. We need to keep the air flowing for just a little longer." As the ship grew even darker, with only the emergency lights still working, Miller thought about all the people back on Earth who were counting on them, even though they didn't know it. He thought about how the Empire had destroyed 49 other ships, good ships with brave crews, thinking that numbers and power were all that mattered. "Max," he said suddenly, "you said the virus learns and adapts. What exactly will it do to their ships?" "The virus will infiltrate their computer systems through their quantum communication network," Max explained. "It will start by taking control of their weapons and engines. Then it will spread to life support, artificial gravity, everything. Within minutes, their entire fleet will be under our control." "And then what?" "Then, Captain, we can make them do anything we want. We can shut down their weapons. We can turn their ships against each other. We can even send their entire fleet into the nearest sun if we choose." Miller shook his head. "No. When we take control, I want you to do something else. Something that will hurt the Empire more than destroying their ships ever could." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "I want you to unlock their computers. All of them. Show their crews every secret the Empire has been keeping. Let them see the truth about who they're really serving." "An interesting strategy, Captain. You believe the Empire's own people will turn against them." "People can accept a lot of bad things from their leaders, Max, but nobody likes discovering they've been lied to. When the Empire's soldiers and citizens see the truth, well, let's just say we won't have to destroy their ships. They'll do that themselves." A small alert sounded, drawing everyone's attention. Through the frozen windows, they could see the Imperial command ship growing larger. They were getting close. 40 minutes to optimal virus deployment range," Max announced. Miller nodded, then spoke to his crew. "Just 40 more minutes. I know you're cold. I know you're tired. But in 40 minutes, we're going to change the galaxy forever. The Empire thinks they've already won. They think we're dead. Our ship destroyed. Our planet defenseless. They're about to learn that their biggest mistake wasn't attacking Earth. It was giving us a reason to fight back." The crew straightened in their seats despite the bone-chilling cold. Through frosted windows, past their own frozen breath, they watched the massive Imperial command ship draw nearer. Soon, very soon, they would show the Empire that they had badly underestimated both humanity's strength and its cleverness. The cold might be nearly unbearable, but the warmth of coming victory kept them going, one freezing minute at a time. The Imperial command ship filled their entire view now. It was enormous, a city in space, with towers and spires rising from its dark metal hull. Lights flickered across its surface like stars, and massive weapon ports dotted its sides like caves in a mountain. The Defiant, now coated in ice and looking like just another piece of battle debris, drifted slowly toward this giant. 20 minutes until we're in range," Max announced. The AI's voice was quieter now, using minimal power like everything else on the ship. Miller could barely feel his hands anymore. The temperature had dropped to -25 degrees, and frost covered every surface. Some of the crew had stopped shivering, a dangerous sign that their bodies were giving up the fight against the cold. "Thompson," Miller called out, his voice hoarse. "How many people are still conscious?" The chief engineer looked around the bridge, counting. 8 out of 15, sir. The others are alive, but they're not responding well. Wake them up. Keep them moving. We can't have anyone freeze to death when we're this close." Thompson and the other still conscious crew members gently shook their frozen companions, helping them move their arms and legs. Every movement sent sharp pains through their cold muscles, but movement meant life. "Sir," Reed whispered, her teeth chattering, "I'm seeing something strange in the command ship's energy readings. They're using human technology. A lot of it." Miller forced his tired mind to focus. What do you mean? Their power systems, their engines, the basic designs are human. They've modified them, improved them maybe, but the core technology, it's ours. Max, Miller called out, is this true? Analyzing, the AI replied. After a moment, it continued, Lieutenant Reed is correct. I am detecting numerous systems aboard the Imperial command ship that originated from human designs. This extends beyond just their engineering. Their quantum communication network, their weapons, even their life support, all appear to be modified versions of human technology. Miller felt a new kind of cold, the cold of anger. They've been stealing from us. All this time, they've been taking our technology, copying it, using it against us. He looked at his half-frozen crew. Max, when we deploy the virus, will this make a difference? Yes, Captain. The fact that their systems are based on human technology will make the virus even more effective. It will recognize the basic architectures. Infection and control will be nearly instantaneous. A small alarm sounded, making everyone jump. Imperial security scan incoming, Max announced. They are doing a routine check of the debris field. Can they detect us? Miller asked. Unknown. Our power emissions are minimal, but their scanners are extremely powerful at this range. They might. Suddenly, the main screen lit up with an incoming transmission. The same gray-skinned alien commander from before appeared, but this time his smug expression was replaced with fury. Impossible, Supreme Commander Racton shouted. The human vessel still exists. All ships target that debris section. Destroy them. Miller didn't hesitate. Max, now. Upload the virus. But Captain, we are not yet in optimal range. Success chance is reduced to. Now, Max, we won't get another chance. The AI acted instantly. Through the frozen windows, the crew could see a strange ripple in space, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. It spread from the Defiant toward the command ship, invisible to normal sensors, but carrying their digital weapons straight into the heart of the Empire's fleet. Virus uploading, Max reported. Imperial ships powering weapons. Impact in 15 seconds. Restore power, Miller ordered. Everything we've got left. The crew scrambled to their stations as systems began coming back online. Ice cracked and fell from consoles as they lit up. The engines hummed back to life, and blessed warm air began flowing from the vents. 10 seconds to impact, Max announced. Virus at 20% upload. The space around them lit up as thousands of Imperial ships prepared to fire. There was no way their shields, even at full power, could stop that many weapons. 5 seconds, 40% upload. Miller grabbed his chair as the artificial gravity came back online. Brace for impact. 3 seconds, 60% upload. Through the windows, they could see the energy building in the Empire's weapon ports. One hit from that many ships would vaporize them instantly. 1 second, 80% upload. Miller closed his eyes, thinking of Earth, hoping they'd done enough. Upload complete. Virus deployment successful. Beginning system infiltration. Miller opened his eyes. The weapons pointing at them hadn't fired. On the main screen, Supreme Commander Racton was pressing buttons frantically, yelling at someone off-screen. What's happening? The alien commander shouted. Why aren't the weapons firing? Why can't I access any systems? Your empire is built on stolen technology, Miller said, standing up despite his frozen muscles. Did you really think we wouldn't figure out how to take it back? Max's voice came through every speaker on every ship in the Imperial fleet. Imperial network accessed. All systems compromised. Unlocking restricted files. Beginning data broadcast. On thousands of ships, crews watched in shock as their computers began displaying classified information. They saw proof that their leaders had been stealing technology from dozens of worlds, not just Earth. They learned that many of their glorious victories had actually been attacks on peaceful planets that had something the Empire wanted. They discovered that their own people were being lied to, controlled, used as pawns in a game of galactic theft and conquest. No, Racton screamed. Override it. Shut it down. You can't shut down the truth, Miller said. He turned to his crew, who were finally starting to warm up. Thompson, send a signal to Earth. Tell them to prepare for incoming transmissions. The Empire's entire database is about to be theirs. Captain, Max reported, Imperial ships are experiencing multiple system failures. Crews are abandoning their posts. Several vessels are reporting internal fighting. On the main screen, they could see escape pods launching from ships throughout the fleet. Some vessels were turning their weapons on the command ship. Others were simply shutting down, their crews refusing to follow orders now that they knew the truth. This isn't possible, Racton said, his voice shaking. We are the Empire. We cannot be defeated by one ship. We cannot. Miller cut off the transmission. He didn't need to hear any more. He looked around at his crew, brave men and women who had endured freezing cold and the constant fear of death to complete their mission. They were tired, cold, and probably needed medical attention, but they had done it. They had saved Earth. Max, Miller said, send a message to all Imperial ships. Tell them that Earth is willing to offer amnesty to any crew that stands down now. Tell them we'll help them get home, wherever home is. Tell them. He paused, watching through the windows as the mighty Imperial fleet began to tear itself apart. Tell them that the age of the Empire is over, and that next time they think about attacking Earth, they should remember what one ship and a few frozen humans managed to do to their entire fleet. As the message went out, the crew of the Defiant began treating their injured and thawing out their systems. They had done more than survive. They had changed the galaxy forever. The empire that had threatened Earth with 3,000 ships was collapsing, destroyed not by weapons, but by the simple power of truth. And somewhere in the chaos of the disintegrating fleet, a very cold but very proud Captain James Miller allowed himself a small smile. Sometimes, he thought, the best victories were the ones that didn't require firing a single shot. The next few hours aboard the Defiant were busy ones. As the ship's systems slowly warmed back up, the crew worked to treat their injured and monitor the chaos unfolding around them. The massive Imperial fleet had broken into 3 distinct groups. Those who had surrendered and accepted Earth's offer of amnesty, those who had fallen into deep space, and a small number who still tried to fight for the dying Empire. Miller stood at his command station, watching it all through the main view screen. His body was still sore from the extreme cold, but a hot drink and working heaters had done wonders for everyone's spirits. Status report. He called out to his crew. Medical Bay reports all crew members are recovering from the cold. Thompson said, no permanent damage, though some of us might have interesting stories to tell about our frozen toes. 67% of Imperial ships have accepted our amnesty offer, Walker added from his communication station. 23% have fled, and only 10% are still showing hostile intent. But even those ships are having trouble fighting. Their crews keep arguing with their officers. Reed spoke up from her science station, her voice excited. Sir, you need to see this. I've been going through the Imperial database that Max downloaded. It's incredible. They didn't just steal our technology. They stole from dozens of worlds. And some of those worlds, they're still out there, still fighting. Miller walked over to her station, looking at the data scrolling across her screen. Show me. Reed pulled up a map of the galaxy, with dozens of points of light marking different civilizations. The Empire didn't conquer everyone. Some worlds went into hiding. Others found ways to resist. But they were all separated, fighting alone. Until now. Until now, Miller repeated softly. He turned to face the main screen again. Max, can you send messages to these other worlds? Let them know what's happened here. Already done, Captain, Li replied. I took the liberty of transmitting proof of the Empire's collapse along with copies of their classified files. The responses are already coming in. Would you like to hear them? put them on screen. The main display lit up with messages from dozens of worlds. Some were text only. Others included images or video of cheering crowds. All of them shared the same feeling: joy, relief, and gratitude. "Sir," Walker called out suddenly. "Priority message coming in from Earth Command." The screen changed to show Admiral Chen, the head of Earth's Defense Forces. The older woman's face showed a mixture of disbelief and pride. "Captain Miller," she said, "I'm looking at reports that seem impossible to believe. Did your ship really just bring down the entire Imperial fleet?" Miller smiled. "Not just the fleet, Admiral. The whole Empire. Though I have to admit, we had some help." He gestured at his crew. "The best damn crew in the fleet, and an eye that's full of surprises." The Admiral shook her head in wonder. "The refugee ships are already arriving. Imperial crews asking for asylum. They're telling us things about stolen technology, about hidden worlds, about resistance movements we never knew existed." She paused. "You've changed everything, Captain. The galaxy will never be the same." "That's good," Miller said firmly. "The old galaxy wasn't working too well anyway." Over the next few hours, ships began arriving from some of the worlds that had been hiding from the Empire. They were strange vessels of all shapes and sizes, built by civilizations that had been forced into the shadows. Now they came into the light, ready to help build something new. "Captain," Max said, "I'm detecting a small ship approaching from the remains of the Imperial fleet. It's unusual." Miller looked at the screen where Max had highlighted the vessel. It was tiny compared to the Imperial ships, and its design was like nothing he'd ever seen. "They're requesting permission to dock," Walker reported. "They say they have something that belongs to us." Miller thought for a moment, then nodded. "Grant them permission, but keep security ready, just in case." 20 minutes later, Miller stood in the Defiant's docking bay as the strange ship landed. Its hull seemed to shimmer and change colors, like oil on water. When its door opened, two figures stepped out. They looked almost human, except their skin had a slight blue tint, and their eyes were larger than normal. "Captain Miller," one of them said, bowing slightly. "I am Rin, and this is my partner Toll. We're scientists for the Empire, but we never agreed with their methods. What can we do for you?" Miller asked cautiously. Toll stepped forward, holding a data crystal. "This contains all our research, everything we learned from studying your technology. We wanted you to have it back." He paused. "And we wanted to ask for your help. There are many scientists like us in the Empire, people who wanted to create, to discover, not to steal and destroy. You were hoping we might be interested in working together," Miller finished. "Actually learning from each other instead of taking by force." The two aliens nodded eagerly. Miller smiled. "I think that can be arranged. In fact," he looked around at his ship, at his crew, at the mixture of human and alien vessels now floating peacefully in space around them. "I think that's exactly what we all need." Later, back on the bridge, Miller sat in his command chair, thinking about everything that had happened. His crew was tired but happy, knowing they had not only saved Earth, but helped free countless other worlds as well. "Max," he said suddenly, "that virus you carried, the one that could infiltrate any system, we're going to have to be careful with that. In the wrong hands." "The virus has already been deleted, Captain," Max replied. "It served its purpose. The future should be built on trust and cooperation, not on weapons and threats, even hidden ones." Miller nodded, feeling proud of the AI's decision. "Speaking of the future, what do you think is going to happen now, with all these different worlds coming together?" "Based on my calculations," Max said, "the possibilities are enormous. The Empire forced everyone to be the same, to follow their rules, to use their stolen technology. But now, with every world free to develop in its own way, to share ideas instead of having them taken, I believe we are about to enter a golden age of discovery and innovation. As if to prove Max's point, new ships were still arriving. Vessels from worlds that had been hiding for generations, each bringing their own unique knowledge and culture. The space around them was filling up with a fleet as diverse as the galaxy itself. "Captain," Walker called out, "we're getting requests from almost every ship out there. They all want to talk, to share information, to start building, well, everything." Miller stood up, looking out at the gathering of ships through the Defiance windows. Just days ago, they had been alone, facing an empire that seemed unbeatable. Now they were surrounded by allies, by possibilities, by hope. "Send them this message," he said. "Tell them that Earth welcomes them all. Tell them we're ready to learn, to share, to help build something better than an empire. A galaxy where every world, every people, every idea has value." He paused, thinking of how close they had come to losing everything. "And tell them that if anyone ever tries to build another empire, they'll find out what we learned today. That the strongest force in the universe isn't weapons or fleets or stolen technology. It's people standing together, fighting for what's right." As the message went out, Miller looked at his crew. The people who had risked everything, who had nearly frozen to death, who had helped change the galaxy forever. They were all smiling, knowing that while their adventure in the cold and dark was over, an even bigger adventure was just beginning. And somewhere in the ship's computer core, Max was already calculating the possibilities of this new future. A future where ships like the Defiant wouldn't have to stand alone against empires, because there wouldn't be any empires left to fight. Just worlds working together, growing together, reaching for the stars not with weapons, but with hope.